Welcome to TechNow, the web series for ServiceNow builders, admins, developers of all skill levels on a variety of platform topics. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Chuck Tomasi. Been a customer for a couple of years, from 2008 to 2010. Have been at ServiceNow since 2010, coming up on about 10 years. Really happy to be here. We've got a special episode this time talking about some emergency response apps that we recently released and want to give you a developer's perspective on that. So hang out, stick with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I am going to turn it over to Craig for his introduction.
Yes, I'm Craig Stepp. I was never a customer, but I've been an employee for about 6 years and loved every minute of it. I think back and I think about all the problems I could have solved with ServiceNow when I didn't have it. Anyway, I'm the program manager for Cloud Labs, and I handle all the lab spinning up all the infrastructure and stuff we use in our training and certifications. And again, I've been with ServiceNow for about 6 years, and I've been co-hosting this with Chuck for about 4. So there we go. And on to Jeremy.
Hey folks, Jeremy Duncan here. I'm a platform architect here at ServiceNow. Been here for 7 months. Been a customer developer, architect, evangelist for ServiceNow for 8 years. So pre-Aspen was my initial beginnings on the platform, and have been in love ever since. So since then, I've worked with our enterprise, federal, and commercial accounts. My job here at ServiceNow is to innovate on the platform. So some of the applications that you'll see today are things that my team has worked on, either initially building or enhancing down the road. So stay tuned. Lots of great stuff, information, as Chuck will cover. Just a quick tidbit about myself. I am a reserve police officer here in the city of Hendersonville. So much like Dwight Schrute in The Office, I get to do my day job, and then I get to go fight crime at night or in my free time. So next up, we'll talk about the agenda. So we are going to do a review of the emergency response apps, how to install those, do some configuration and or customization, how to think outside the box. So we do have the 4 free applications that have been deployed for the globe to use, but there are opportunities to not only extend, but do some automation within those 4 applications. We'll talk a little bit about what it took to build those applications, and then we'll obviously open it up for Q&A. You do have the ability to do questions and answers along the way that will help navigate. Knowledge 2020 will not be in person, so no excuses for attending this year. So save the date. We will be digital, so May 5th through the 7th. Get more information about that event at knowledge.servicenow.com. And for help with customer success, so as you're looking for ways to enhance your experience and how you either implement or adopt ServiceNow, head on over to servicenow.com/success for more information. And for information for you geeks out there, the ones that are looking to dive deeper into topic and subject matter, check out developer.servicenow.com. You can grab your own personal developer instance. So the 4 applications that we'll talk about today, you can actually go grab a PDI, install these 4 applications, and help evangelize this in your organization. You've got access to free learning plans at all different levels. So the content between developer and now learning are all dedicated to different types, whether you're an admin, developer, architect, many different resources out there to help you. And moving right along to Chuck, emergency response management applications.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the actual applications themselves, but I want to introduce you to what they are, what was released. I believe it was March 12th, 13th, somewhere in that area. We came out with 4 applications at no charge. I got to be careful in the way they say that because it has to do with the future. But these are the emergency response operations. We were working on this application, I believe, with the state of Washington in the month of February leading up to this. And then they said, hey, we need to make this public for everybody to get a hold of. So that's what the basis is for that. If you want to optimize staff and resource support for emergency response for public agencies and other organizations, really anybody can do this. It's a great way to keep in track. Business continuity people latch onto this same concept as well. So a lot of similar concepts in there. Jeremy can give you more detailed information about each one of these if you like. There's emergency outreach to distribute that information to your employees, to your customers, to get that information about the location A couple of these do have mobile components to them, a couple of them portals to them. So there's different ways that they've been built by different teams. Self-report for allowing your employees to report in and say, hey, I'm doing well. I'm in Dallas, Texas, or Amsterdam, or wherever. They can report in. And then the exposure management to identify and manage the exposure risk if somebody is in fact diagnosed with an illness or situation like that. So those are the applications. You can find out more of them. I'm going to do a real quick screen share rather than bore you with slides. Let's try the screen sharing today. How's it going? Make sure the gremlins are not bothering me. Jeremy, Craig, you see that? You looking at the screen share?
Yes.
Looks like it's showing up all right.
Yes,
all right.
I do, actually.
If you go to servicenow.com/crisis response, very easy to remember, crisis response, it will take you to the /solution/crisis-management.html, but that's not as easy as saying servicenow.com/crisis response. You can read up all about this. Bill McDermott's letter is in here, what he promised, what he committed to, and what we delivered, helping you to do this. If you are not a customer, okay, there is this not a customer link right, make sure I can get this, right here on the right, where it says not a customer. You can sign up, fill out a form, and get this instance installed with those applications for a limited time to try them out, use them, no charge, and it'll take about 24 hours for someone on our team to get back to you. So that's one piece of it. If you want to dive deeper into them, you go to store.servicenow.com, and each of these emergency applications is featured right here at the top. Or if you come back at some point and it's not featured, you can type in emergency into the search box at the top, and it will bring them up. There's self-report, there's response operations, outreach, and exposure management right there. Click into each one of those and you get more details and ratings and so on and so forth. Key features, read all about them on the store. If you are a customer and you've got your instance, here's how you do the install. Very easy. You go to System Applications and spell it correctly. That usually helps. Go under Available Applications All, and it will tell you all the plugins and all the applications and things in the store. I like to just type in emergency because I've already installed them. But if I hadn't, come on, keyboard, catch up with me. There we go. We've got a couple of change management, but there's emergency exposure management. I've already installed it. There's outreach. There's operations. Oh, look, it's ready for an update. And there's self-report. So I've got 1.0.5 installed. There's 1.07 ready to go. If I want to update that, I can just click update and away it goes with the install, downloads it from the store, gets it on my instance. We're not going to sit around and wait for that because there's better things to do than watch paint dry and grass grow. But it goes pretty quick. What'd you say, Jeremy? A couple minutes?
Yeah, and Chuck, I've also published some helpful videos. I pushed it out to the Q&A section. So there's a link to a 101 site that's got all the videos, including how to install and breakdown of each of the applications. So check those out.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Let me get my slide deck back up to where we were catching up with that. And we will talk about, cancel, click the button one too many times. So there's a couple of ways from a developer's perspective. Let's say your boss tells you next week, hey, we've got these applications installed. We want you to load them up. And a conversation with Jeremy last week really opened my eyes to this. This is a pretty standard ServiceNow methodology. We're delivering you some base applications. This is no different than ITSM giving you incident, problem change, et cetera, et cetera. You can then configure it and extend it and do what you need to make it work in your organization. We're not trying to distribute these applications that are perfect for everyone, because if we tried to get them perfect for everyone, they would work for no one and no one would download them and use them. So ServiceNow is a platform designed to configure and customize your applications. So if you're doing minor configuration to these things, such as form layout, such as adding a choice field or making a report, what we recommend you do is go create an update set in that application scope. Go select emergency management operations or emergency self-help. Pick one of those application scopes, build the update set, make your changes to form, table, whatever. This is like the easy no-code stuff that you're not really adding on to do. create that update set, capture those changes, and promote it just like you would in any other sub-prod to prod environment. That way the scope is maintained, everything's there, you're not conflicting with the stuff that's coming from the store. If you have a major configuration, let's say we're integrating with Google Calendar for this example, then you would go into Studio, create a new scoped app, build that integration, build that configuration, do the changes, the customizations, publish it through the application repo. In Studio, you go to File, Publish. It's pretty darn simple. On the prod instance or test instance or wherever your target is, you go File, Install. Or actually, you go to the same place I just was under Applications All and go, there it is, and install. So very easy to do either one of those. Pay attention to the cross-scope privileges. That's what that green box is telling me and reminding me to remind you is if you have a scoped app, and all of these are created as scoped apps, the 4 apps we distribute are scoped. My understanding is that almost every table on every one of these has read permission and write and create and delete from other scopes. They're meant to be integrated with. So if you wanted to say take outreach and merge it with self-report, you can do that. It's not going to block you from say, hey, these scopes don't want to talk to anybody else. So be aware of that as well. So any Q&A at this point? I know it's real early in the conversation. Anything we need to address about this? Because this comes up a lot in the community.
I'm not seeing anything, Chuck.
Okay.
And just to add some color commentary to, outreach, you'll learn as we go along that outreach, health records, and self-report, we built these applications individually to be stood up and potentially deployed individually. So there will be some connections that you or your customers may ask for. And what Chuck is covering is you do have the capability of doing that, not only tying those records together, but even doing some automation and things. So yeah.
And I believe this is where I turn it over to you for more color commentary, Jeremy.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've communicated these applications to our customers, some of the feedback we've gotten is, what about automation? What about when someone reports they're not feeling well or not going to be at work? How do we automate these pieces? So you'll learn in those videos and as we go through this app demonstration that we start with self-report, allowing folks to voluntarily give their information. We then run into some exposure management where we see who might have been impacted based on that person being in the same location or sharing meetings with folks. And then we go to outreach where we communicate out to the folks who could have potentially been impacted. So you'll see an inherent integration between the 3 applications, but we don't give you that out of the box. Again, we want our customers to be able to stand each one up individually and use, but we also want to give you the capability. So think about your integration opportunities between the applications. And if you check out servicenow.com/COVID-19, you'll see a lot of great examples already being published out there. So use that as a resource. And then consider beyond these emergency apps, what other pieces are impacted? For instance, as we do work in a self-report, which is a very tactical application, your manager has the ability to reassign all the tasks that are assigned to you so that if you self-report you're not feeling well, they have the ability to go in and reassign all your work very quickly. So then we start to get into incident, change, anything that's task-based work that you're doing to support your customers, albeit internal or external customers. We got to make sure that business continuity continues. So using self-report, you can use that extension or reaching out to different applications internally. Just a quick topic about HR. We don't cover this today, but I want you to consider the health alert content pack that's out there for HRSD, which is a great opportunity to use another portion of the application stack to do those integrations between the different applications. And the last example, we've got Google Maps, where we've had customers use what is the location of the person reporting that they're not feeling well. Pinpoint that on a map. Maybe we've got a map view of that. There are out-of-the-box map functionalities that you can use as well. You just have to make sure that you've got your location data sound for that. Another Google opportunity is folks have been concerned about PHI and how we store that. ServiceNow does historically have a stance on that, but I want you to consider there are other external integrations that you can use to store data that you may not want to store in the ServiceNow instance. But never fear, we give you all the tools you need to secure your data on the ServiceNow instance if that's where you choose to store it. So back to you, Chuck.
All right. And wanted to remind you once again, we are going to be doing one of these integrations between the applications on Live Coding Happy Hour. We're scheduling that now. So if you want more information on that, go over to developer.servicenow.com and we can get you watch that, subscribe to the channel. You'll know when it's coming. You'll get the alerts, that kind of thing. So we will be doing that demonstration. Looking forward to that very, very much. There's also, I don't know if it's here, you've apologized, but Jeremy, there's also a place on our community, a whole subgroup dedicated to the COVID-19 applications and the management of them and ideas. There's some wonderful ideas coming out there. So please share with us if you've got new ideas that you're doing or you'd like to see. That the community is a wonderful place, community.servicenow.com. Oh, I've been forgetting the bell when I mention the websites. So I want to drop back behind the scenes a little bit because this is a very similar story to what you as a developer may get in your day-to-day operations. Somebody's going to walk up to you. I mean, quite literally, Bill McDermott unloaded this on us and said on March 9th, we are going to have these apps available. So as far as the self-report app went, I talked to our developers who are using the same tools on the same tool set, same platform that you and I build on. They didn't do anything special. They got to work that day collecting requirements, and in 24 hours, they had an MVP ready to go. They said, how's it look? And they tested it out, and they made releases 2 times a day. And in 3 days, people, this is something that Craig mentioned at the top of the show. He said, I wish I had ServiceNow back when I was building these other things. This is one of those cases where, I couldn't have done this years ago because if my boss said we need this in 3 days, I would have left. But now you can actually do this. They started out by whiteboarding some ideas, got that into VTB, did the Agile 2.0 module, Flow Designer. You can see the things that they all use there. Standard stuff. The only thing you might not recognize is Health Scan, which is still internal for checking best practices and bad practices to make sure they don't do something stupid that will impact maintenance, usability, scalability, something like that. So hopefully we'll get that released soon. The challenges they had obviously were the time. They said, we need this by, I think they were given 5 days. They did it in 3. They worked with the documentation team. They worked with the compliance team. They worked with the security team. I mean, it wasn't just, hey, go bang out this app. Here's some tables, here's some fields, here's some forms, here's a portal. Away we go. They had to get all the support stuff around that done as well. And I think it was 3 guys that did this whole thing. It was like, it really is an amazing story. And my underlying point is, if they can do it, so can you. So can I. It's pretty cool stuff. So some notes they did as takeaways from that were that this app was scoped from the beginning. They recognized, well, originally they were going to put it on share and said, that's going to make it harder to find, harder to install, and harder to maintain. So when we come out with version 2, like Jeremy said, I think it's coming out tomorrow, which would be what? April Fools? That doesn't sound like a good release date, except for Gmail, I guess.
Maybe it just should have waited a day.
So I just thought about that. I was like, tomorrow? Who thought releasing something on April Fools? Anyway, so they said, let's go with
definitely not a fool. It's real.
It's real. Yeah.
So putting it in the store helps with that, and to put it in the store as sort of an internal ISV, they needed to make it scoped. So consider making your application scoped from the beginning. They tried to use as many out-of-box service portal widgets. I think they did have a few custom widgets in there as well. But by doing that, again, they can leverage what ServiceNow has already built and say, why am I building a list widget or a card widget when something like that is already available? Let's save time. Let's accelerate our development by using what's available out of the box. And of course, by talking to the stakeholders, the process owners, the people involved with all of this throughout this, you get that initial product faster. Your MVP evolves quicker into the final initial release, I should say. Plus, they also have this wonderful backlog of things that they hit along the way that said, all right, didn't make it into release 1.0. Let's continue working on that. We've got a little breathing space for a couple of weeks, and that'll be coming out soon. So keep those sponsors, keep those stakeholders involved through the whole process rather than, surprise, here's your first release. I can say the same thing for an internal project that I'm working on right now with our budgeting people. And they've been wonderful. We've got a nice backlog. We're ready to release. Oddly enough, we're releasing that tomorrow too. What is it with April 1st now?
What's the deal?
It must be because it's the start.
It's like the 13th floor. You never release on the 1st.
Well, it is Q2. So I can see the finance people wanting to do something on a quarterly boundary. The underlying thing in all this is, and I mentioned this before, the developers are the real heroes in this story. You are developers. I am a developer, and you can be a hero too. It doesn't take much to bring life, to automate a process, to get structure around an unstructured process. I know this sounds kind of marketing and foo-foo stuff, but take a step back and appreciate what you do once in a while. It's pretty freaking amazing. I was just having a thought over breakfast this morning, and I thought, developers are a lot like musicians or cooks. You know your ingredients, you know what tools are available to you, you know what instruments to play, and you compose what that final symphony looks like because somebody says, hey, I need a song for a birthday, or I need a song to dance to, or I need a song to, it really is an amazing place to be. And the velocity in which we get there with this platform is pretty freaking amazing to me. All right. Wow, this is probably going to be one of our shorter TechNows ever, unless we got some Q&A in there. It's design your apps, and I can't say this enough. I say it a lot in the community live stream. Make them data-driven as possible. If you look at the applications for these emergency response apps, you'll notice that at least a couple of them, and I'm almost certain that the winner on the largest properties page is the emergency response operations. It's got properties to tell you what everything is. It's crazy how many of the properties are in there. This is a form of data-driven. You don't have to go back to a developer and say, hey, can you please add this, or can you change the number of that or the limit on that? You can change a property and it changes the behavior of that application. The other way to do this is you build some sort of data lookup table and say, oh, based on A, B, and C, I need D as an outcome. You can do that. And now you can turn that management of the application. Templates is another one. Let's use templates and condition fields and whatnot. So you can configure the application quite literally in production and say, oh, it's no longer being automatically routed to Jeremy. Let's reroute this to Craig. I update data in a table and the app just behaves the way it does. It's not hard-coded into some script somewhere or workflow. So make sure your applications are data-driven. That's hugely important to the maintenance of them as you go on, because that frees you up to go and do other solutions, and that's what we get paid for. Build them quickly on the Now platform. I think we beat that to death in this episode, and you can get them deployed and maintained much easier. So, do we have any questions related to these topics that we would like to take on before we go?
So, Chuck,
I do see.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I'm happy to demonstrate one of the customizations that we can do in the application. If you want to show a quick demo.
All right.
Yeah.
Actually, as you're setting that up, Jeremy, Lisa Allen asked, what's the minimum version of ServiceNow you need for this? I imagine
Madrid.
New York?
Madrid.
Okay.
Madrid. Yep. So M, N, and O are on that. Yep.
Go ahead, Joe.
And that aligns with our N-1, actually extends a little beyond our N-1 target. So Orlando is currently our current release, came out earlier in March. That means New York is now N-1, and we are driving very hard to get all of our customers up to N-1, do an upgrade at least once a year. So that aligns with it. Madrid is being given a little bit of, clemency here. So, a lot of people are still on Madrid. They haven't gotten to that N-1 release cadence yet, but will need to be in the next year or so.
A lot of that has to do with App Engine licensing as well. Just consider that, we've changed that in Madrid. I have seen someone install these applications in London, but just keep in mind it's not supported. And in that situation, if you are pre-Madrid, work with your account representative. They will get you access to an instance with these 4 applications installed. So don't let that stop your progress in using these applications. So we'll make a provision for that.
Definitely. And to cover pricing at a high level, if you make modifications, if you're extending tables, particularly in the table area, if you're adding choices to a choice list or rearranging the form, that's fine. But if you start getting into tables, work with your account team to understand what the impact is on your licensing before you go forward with that. I'm not going to get into dollars and cents here because this is being recorded in 2020. And if you watch it in 2027, we could have a whole different pricing model and the landscape is going to look differently. So please work with your account team if you've got pricing questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chuck, I'm demonstrating here the community. So if you go to servicenow.com/COVID-19, you'll find licensing information out there. You'll also find the 101 video link that I pushed to the audience earlier. So check those out. Okay. They're there to help you and they do answer those questions. So just to do a quick demonstration of the configuration on the platform, one of the most common things that comes up using our emergency outreach application. So just a quick overview. This gives you the ability to target the audience. So walk with me down the path. Someone reports that they're not feeling well. So starting an emergency self-report, I'll blow through this. They report that they're reporting symptoms. They save it. Their leadership sees that, which, by the way, we have ACLs in place that help distribute the views, so you can't see anyone else's. But if you were to impersonate Bridget Knightley, who's the manager in this instance, in my instance, you'll be able to see your team that's reporting health issues, right?
Jeremy,
you can use exposure management.
Can you make the font a little larger?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
All right. Is that better?
There you go. Us old guys need some help.
All right.
You're going to blow the budget on our Zoom budget, by the way.
So moving there, right? If I report that I'm not feeling well, my leadership can then go in and run exposure management to see who all I might have impacted based on my location, based on an integration with O365, which we provide that for you. You just have to do some configuration on your side. From there, we get to outreach. So we know someone's not feeling well. They could have potentially impacted these other folks because of their location or their collaboration, meeting invites. So now we want to curate a notification to be sent to them. And this is what it looks like. Okay. But I want to give you an example of a configuration. Out of the box, we give you the ability to send an email notification. And we also give you the ability to send a push notification on a mobile device if they're using the native application. Okay. So great plug for our mobile application. But what you're going to see here below is something that I added based on customer feedback. So they said, hey, can we send an SMS notification as a part of this blast out to the targeted audience that we've selected? The answer is absolutely yes, right? So just to break it down real quick for you, this is a Boolean value. This is a string field. I think I did like 100. I think I limited it to 100, but you can set that however you want to. A string field for the SMS body. And the only thing that I did beyond that, of course, there's a UI policy that hides or shows this field. Just like there is for email notification and the push notification, which you can exclude or include, whichever one you want. But if you actually go check out the notification, all you have to do is configure this notification to read that field, the field for the SMS alternate. So you'd come in and say $, open curly, employee, check-in dot SMS body, close curly, and save, right? So now that SMS notification or that notification that's fired off when that emergency outreach notification is sent out, you'll now have the capability of doing the SMS as well.
Nice.
So just a little added flavor to the application there using emergency outreach.
Gee, that was tough to add an SMS notification.
Right, not hard at all. And so I'll go ahead and answer the question that came from Dom. Does the integration filter out virtual meetings? not being I've had that question multiple times. I'm not an O365 expert, but I would assume there is some property similar to what we have in AD. There are different, properties or attributes that are set for meeting types. So I would assume that there is the ability to do that. We don't have that property configured out of box, but it could be added. And then the question is, does it handle external users outside of an organization? Right now, these applications are intended to be used for internal users that you would have information on. So while we do allow you to enter an email address here that you could communicate out to, just remember that they wouldn't be able to authenticate to give you the response back. It would show in the inbound email script as coming from guests. So you would have to do a little bit of configuration work to enable that being meaningful on the back end, right? And just a quick overview for what it's worth. Once you send out those notifications, this application's really cool in that you can see the acknowledgments that folks are giving you. So to that point, if I send a notification out to a non-user, right, that may show up as guests, so it'd be hard to determine who that is. But again, you can do some work to add some fields to get that information if you decided you wanted to do that. But the intent of these applications was for internal use.
All right. Anything else you want a quick demo?
Nope, that's it for me.
Appreciate it very much, sir. Did you unshare? You did unshare. Thank you. All right. If you do have any other questions, we will have a community article up very quickly on this. Just want to give you some references real quick. We do have lots of references for those of you watching live down in the, what do we call it? Resource box. But take a look at those. We've got some links. We'll include those in the community link as well. Docs is a great place to go for the applications, as well as the links we mentioned, servicenow.com/COVID-19 crisis management community. We've got that group specially made for questions around these applications. Developer site, if you've got questions about configuring and customizing your applications and your instance, you can try these on a free personal developer instance, as I was showing earlier. And if you've got any other ideas about shows you want to do or you want to see, check out our list of episodes over at bit.ly/ServiceNow-TechNow to find out what happened in the other 74 episodes you missed, if this is your first one. So, thank you very much for joining us, and you can reach us in a number of ways. We look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, I think that is all. So thank you, Jeremy, for your input. He's been closer to a lot of customers on this than I have. And thank you, Craig, for keeping an eye on the Q&A. And with that, wave to the cameras, boys. See you next time.
Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time.